everybody, welcome back to day 2 of Flipmas. Today I'm going to show you how to get rid of this orange oak finish from the 90s and transform it into something more modern. If you're wondering what in the world Flipmas is, it is where every other day this month I am doing a furniture flip. We are going to be launching videos all throughout the month, so be sure and get subscribed down below so that you don't miss a Flipmas flip. I have been so excited about this flip ever since we picked it up several months back at a local thrift shop for about $100. It's solid wood, so I was okay with paying that, and plus the curved edges of this dresser I believe are going to be super great as a selling point on this dresser when it's redone, because the curved furniture is really in style right now. So I'm excited to bring it back into the modern day with a couple of other tweaks that you'll have to stay tuned to find out. Let's hop into the flip. All right, first things first, we need to get rid of the hardware. I think that this is one of the things that's truly dating this piece. And so I am not gonna be putting this same hardware back on. I will say that I think I'm gonna donate it because I don't see myself using this specific hardware on any other piece either. Found a secret compartment right here. Oh, there's nothing in there. Dang it, that's pretty cool though. It doesn't even look like it's there. And then it's there. But I wouldn't have even known unless it was open. I would have been like, what? Cool. All right, hardware is off. As you can see, we need a really good clean. And thank you so much to Dixie Belle for sponsoring today's video. Let's grab the White Lightning. I dumped some of my White Lightning granule substance into my spray bottle with some warm water several projects ago, and this has lasted me several projects. All we do is let it dissolve and then it turns into a cleaner, and then I'm going to spray the surface here and then wipe it back with my cloths. You could use cloths like this, you could use a rag, whatever you're most comfortable with, but it's just really important to clean your piece before you get started, whether you're gonna sand it all the way back or paint it. We need to get those oils out of it because we don't want to grind that down into the surface with the sander. All right, I'm taking out all the drawers now, and then I am just labeling them so that I know exactly where they go back into place. Some of them are obvious, but a couple of them look really, really similar, but it's important to put them back in the right spot so that I know they fit right. So not only is it important to clean the outside of your piece of furniture, but also the inside, because that is where a lot of that dust is going to just accumulate over the years. Nobody pulls out their drawers and cleans behind there, except for the person who is refinishing it. And if you haven't been doing that and you're flipping furniture, make sure that you start doing that. That way you know inside and out your piece is polished. It's time to get to the fun part, the bulk of this flip, this video. We are going to be sanding back the golden oak finish here. This is a very 80s, 90s look, and the shape is so good that I think if we just sand back that raw wood, we are going to be bringing it into the modern day. So I've got an 80 grit sandpaper on my Surf Prep sander here, and you can use my code FFT10 to grab your own Surf Prep sander. This is my right-hand man. I have this in every single flip, and it is a game changer. It's going to take the sanding time and basically cut it down so that it's actually a more manageable task to complete on this flip. I've been sanding for about 4.5 hours so far, and all I've got left are the drawer fronts. So we're on the home stretch for sure. Definitely not the most that I've sanded on a project before, but pretty up there. Sometimes I question my thought process of the design of dressers like these when I'm like, oh, let's just sand it all back. Like, it's not gonna be that bad, which is really not that bad. It's just time consuming. But again, the surf prep is really helping me truck along. I've used, probably 12 to 15 different sanding pads, but we are so close to being all finished. And one lucky thing is that the finish on this is like pretty easy to come off. It's not being stubborn. The only part that was really stubborn was like the actual top of this. I'm not really sure why. I think because it was more of like that veneer instead of just like solid wood like the rest of the dresser is. It's a little bit more time consuming when the veneer is stubborn, but so worth it. Now that all the sanding is finally done, which really only took me about 1 more hour for for all the drawers. So about 5.5 hours of sanding, and I'm gonna go ahead and wipe back all of the dust on the piece so that we can move to the next step. All right, it is time to mix up our paint wash. A lot of the times when you are sanding back the finish of things like golden oak or really any type of wood finish, you're going to be left with a little bit of a yellow tint to your wood. Could be a green tint, could be a red tint. In this case, it is kind of a more yellow tone. And that is just not very appealing to the eye. So what we do is we'll take some paint, water it down, and then put it over the top of the raw wood, and that will help it just warm it up a little bit and eliminate some of those yellow tones. So in order to make a paint wash, we're gonna mix some paint and some water. It really depends on the type of look you're going for, like how much ratio you want to put into your container. If you want a more transparent look, then you will add less paint and more water. If you want a more a look that you can't see as much of the wood grain, then you'll want more paint and less water. If you kind of are in the middle, then you'll want about 50-50. You can always add more. You can't really take it away. So keep that in mind when you're doing this technique. I think that I want kind of somewhere right down the middle. I still really want that wood grain to pop through, but I also don't want it to be too light and I don't want it to be too dark. I'm gonna be using Dixie Belle's Putty and Dixie Belle's Burlap chalk paints, and I'm just gonna be mixing them. I wanna make my own custom mix color. The Putty has like some green undertones and is a little darker, whereas the Burlap is more of like a tan color. And so I'm gonna mix them together with some water, and we're gonna kind of create our own paint wash color. I'm gonna mix the paint first. So we've got a little bit of a lighter putty and darker burlap here now, which I love the look of. My paint is about 3 years old here. It's still perfectly fine to use, but every once in a while it might come across a little chunk, but just grab that out. It's just from dried paint over the years. Again, I've used these for so long. I typically use these colors for paint washes like this. So with a 32-ounce jar, I'm not gonna be using it up that quickly, but it's okay. It has a long enough shelf life. It's just that it needs to be mixed together really well, which I did before. Now I am going to pour in my water. So we got about 50% paint and about 50% water. and it's really going to dilute that paint. This is basically acting as like a water-based stain or just a color wash. We'll mix everything up here. All right, now paint washing can be a little bit messy because you're gonna be wiping back the excess. So I like to use gloves, and then I've got my Dixie Belle mini brush, and then we will have some lint-free cloths so that we can wipe back that excess paint. So let's go ahead and move over to the body of the dresser and get started. So we're gonna do this in sections, and I've got my mister bottle, which is gonna prep the surface in order to take the paint wash better. So I'm just gonna mist it across the whole top here. Next, we're going to take the paint wash with my brush and just apply it to this whole area that I have misted. And we'll take the lint-free cloth here. You can decide how long you want it to stay on there, and that'll kind of determine how much the wood soaks up the paint wash. So I let it sit on there for just probably 30 seconds here. I'm gonna actually get this little portion here as well. And then I'm gonna take my cloth and wipe it back.
I was interested in your class, as I have done, actually, when I was putting myself through school, I did work for a painting company in Columbus, Nebraska, where I grew up.
But even if you did want to do a class, we're going to start those probably in January, February time for like workshops. So we have a lot of people interested in, you know, we'll probably do, you know, more like smaller pieces like this just to start out, and then give the confidence and the knowledge.
I would be interested, but I don't know. Because they're big pieces, I don't think they're stuff that I'm necessarily going to be able to do myself.
Yeah.
In my garage, I guess if I want to put up a lot of plastic. I don't know. Okay. And you probably don't, price list wise, you're still, to have somebody bring something in?
Yeah, if you're interested, I would basically need to know like the full scope of the project. Like, are you just wanting the table and the chairs for now, or the hutch too? You know, kind of nailing down like a color and things like that. It's time for the top coat. I think that the paint wash really did a number on the finish here. It is so much less yellow, and it's kind of going for like that Pottery Barn Restoration Hardware vibe in the tone that I was kind of going for. And then once we get the hardware on, it's all gonna come together. I've kind of been testing it out a little bit off camera so that I could just make sure I'm headed in the right direction, and I am, but we've got one more step before we can apply the hardware and kind of get everything back together, and that is to apply the top coat. I really love the Clear Coat Satin by Dixie Belle. It is honestly the go-to top coat for me. I love how the finish is. It's like not too shiny, not too flat, gives you plenty of protection, and is so easy to apply. And on top of all of that, it doesn't yellow over time. So that is a huge plus. I'm gonna start with the doors, and we're just kind of gonna work our way around to each other drawer and then the base. I'm gonna use my mini brush, and then I've also got my blue sponge on hand. Sometimes this can make it easier, especially with like larger flat spaces. So I'm gonna use this to kind of get in the nooks and crannies of the doors, but I've got this on hand just in case. This baby is top coated, and since the drawers were top coated first, I can go ahead and start assembling. My favorite part, the finishing touches. And for this flip, I got some really cool hardware, and I think it's really gonna pull it all together. The hardware is going to be black, looks like this, and it is actually adjustable hardware. So these hardware holes were 4 3/4 inches, which is apparently a very rare size. So I decided to go with the adjustable hardware instead. So I'm gonna learn how to do this right now, but it came with all of the hardware. I'll link them down below. I found them on Amazon. This is my first time trying something like these. So I'll let you know how I like it. Looks like it comes with some bolts and some wing nuts and some washers and some regular nuts, and it does come with some instructions, which is good. Okay, so to install this hardware, now that I've got one done, I know how to do it. You're gonna have the piece of hardware, which actually does come in a smaller size as well. If you've got smaller holes, there's a 4-inch one. Then you'll open up your package here. Then you'll pick out which bolt fits your drawer. So I tried the smaller ones and they're a little too short. They don't give me enough to grip onto. So I'm gonna go with the longer ones, and it's gonna be a little opposite of what you're used to doing. You're gonna put them in from the outside, like so. And then you've got some washers, you've got a wing nut, and you've got some nuts. You're gonna take the washers and the nuts and put them onto the insides here. You're not gonna tighten them fully yet. Just get them kind of ready. Then you're gonna take your piece of hardware and you're going to slide it on like so. And then you're gonna make sure it's in the middle by measuring. So mine is a 9-inch piece that way. And then I'm gonna take my wing nut from the inside and tighten that nut. And that will keep the piece of hardware in place. This is a great solution for the odd sized hardware. So now it's in place, it won't move. The last thing that is a good idea, if you have it, and if you don't, I'll link this down below. This is a great tool to have if you're, doing a lot of new hardware. Sometimes the screw is a little too long, and so I like to trim them. And so I just use this tool to go ahead and trim them back in here, so that way the bolt isn't sticking out too far into the drawer to kind of get caught on something. I will say you have to have some muscles. It is not the easiest task. You gotta really grip it. And so, you're cutting through nails, or through metal, so we're cutting about that much off. So now it's a lot less sticking out in the inside. And there you have it. It's done. The dresser is done, and it is exactly how I imagined it. I'm so glad that I was able to get rid of that golden oak look. It seriously just brings it into the modern day. I love the organic shape of this dresser. It really just needed a little update. The hardware, I think, makes it. I love the different contrast here of the lighter wood and the darker hardware. I think it all just really came together so well. Again, all links are down below for all the Dixie Belle products that we used today. There weren't too many of them, and I love flips like this where it doesn't really entail too many products. We used our sander and then the white lightning, of course, to clean it prior. We used 2 colors of paint for the paint wash and then a satin clear coat. So really minimal tools and products required for a flip like this. It really just took a little bit of time and some elbow grease. I would say that this flip took me right around 7 or 8 hours, which is pretty typical for this size of a dresser. So keep that in mind when you're flipping. I am thinking about listing this at about $595. It's solid wood. It's really in style right now. I'm gonna list it on Facebook Marketplace. It's gonna be on the floor here on display at our store, and then it's also going to be on our website. So if you're interested in something like this, we are offering nationwide shipping now, so check out our website. Everything will be linked down below in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching. Flipmas is so much fun, and I love every single episode. We are bringing you another one in just a couple more days, so be sure and hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss a Flipmas video here this month of December. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you on the flip side.